Good afternoon. Welcome to What is Your Why? I'm Taylor Ullum, and I'm here to bring you a little inspiration today. And I do that by introducing you to people who inspire me. And my hope is we can dig in together what drives their passion and purpose and impact in the world. And hoping inspiration is contagious and we can spread some out there for everybody. We all have gifts and talents, and I hope that you're finding a way to use yours. And let's see, do a little housekeeping here. Looks like everything is good to go. It's been a very busy week and a half and week ahead here. And I'm going to bring on my troublemaker co host here, Jordan Ullum. Good
Hello.
afternoon. Keep wanting to say good morning.
Afternoon.
Ooh, I don't know what time of day it is anymore or what state I'm in. I wake up, I don't know where I am anymore.
Mhm.
A
Yeah,
lot of fun though. We got to go to Biff last week in South Carolina. We got to go to the Beaufort International Film Festival
we
with Ron
did.
and Rebecca Tucker. Gary Sinise was there. We saw the Lieutenant Dan band. We got to mingle with our friends at a beach house. We got to play with dolphins morning, noon, and night. We got to see a full moon rise. We watched the sunrise. Like it was ideal, except for it was a bit chilly.
It was incredible, regardless of the weather. It was amazing. Another incredible festival. Already planning next year.
Did you have any favorites?
Oh God, you can't ask me that. I don't know. I've only been to Biff once before this. So this was only my second year, but even still, like just from last year to the films that were presented last year to this year, like it's just so awesome to get to see how much everybody grows in their art within like the span of a year. The films this year were just incredible. It was really hard to pick one.
Yeah, I should have brought out the pamphlet because I can't remember the names of the films. I'm really bad with remembering anything. But the one with the couple where they started out and they were like cooking in the
A
kitchen, you're like,
Shattering.
oh, Shattering, yeah.
Incredible. A
They were
Shattering
so
was
in love, and then that took just a dark
yeah.
turn very quickly, but it was such a relatable film, and I think that I know she was up for Best Actress, and then the
He was
one
also
with
yeah, that one was up for a lot of awards.
the Edna, the one where she was talking to her dead husband through the radio. I really
Estella,
Estella. See, you're so good with these
are you
names.
there?
Good for
Yeah.
you. Are you there? Yeah. I just loved it. I loved it
Mhm.
so much, and I was like, "I'm gonna see every film," and then I didn't, but I sure wish
Maybe
I
next
could.
year. We'll try.
Maybe.
Yeah.
We keep trying, but, again, if you've never been to a film festival, it's such a out of the norm thing to go to. I think you'd really like it if you're a creative person, art person, theater person, or whatever, or you even just a little bit interested in, like, the film industry at all or acting. It was an amazing time. Okay, so we're having trouble streaming to Facebook, it looks
Yep.
like.
Checking on that now.
We're
We are good everywhere else. No
good
worries.
everywhere else, are we not? Streaming to Facebook. Hmm.
Okay.
Well, I'm not sure what the hangup would be there because Facebook is where it's at.
If it doesn't correct itself, we'll be posting the episode to Facebook later so everybody can watch it in full.
For sure, for sure. Keep on keeping on. So, all right. Well, let's talk about today's guest,
I'm
Nic-
so excited.
Nicole Buntgen. Both of us kind of met her separately, but a young woman who just is an inspiration to me. She's written a book, she's a model, she knows everything about all the cool places around town. She's always dressed to the T, very fashionable. Um, yeah, so are you ready to bring her on?
Absolutely.
All right. Welcome to the stage.
What
Hi.
up? Hey, girl.
I'm not sure why we are having such a hard time here with our streaming. It's not wanting to stream to Facebook. So keep in mind that it is being recorded though, and we will get it uploaded for you. So you guys keep talking. I'm going to see if I can troubleshoot here.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Nicole. I am so excited to have you here.
I'm happy to be
Man,
here.
what don't you do? You are an author, you're an advocate, you're a model, you're my best friend. Like
I know.
you wear so many hats. And, I mean, my mom said you were an inspiration to her. You're an inspiration to me too. I mean, you are really well, quick backstory, Nicole and I met, through my mom, through networking, and Nicole took me under her wing and started introducing me to people around town, other entrepreneurs, and kind of getting me into, a more professional environment and teaching me how to market myself more professionally, and that just helped me elevate my game so much. I really, uh God, man, I mean, that was the best thing you could have done for me. I was so, so honored and so happy to get to do that with you, and from that, I mean, this whole friendship has developed. We have so much in common. Initially, when we first met, we started emailing back and forth super professionally. We tried really hard to like start off on a good foot with one another, and then we realized, oh, we're peers. Like we can just text
We
each
should
other. So
text.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, man.
No,
But
I'm
God,
super grateful for all of that. I mean, yeah, it just happened to work out like through connections that Peggy and I shared to be able to connect with you through that and then show you through the business world, realize we have so much in common with everything. Yeah, I'm so grateful for all of it.
man, you're the best. I tell people that all the time. But let's start with your book. You have your posters behind you, and I have my signed copy, not to brag, right
Oh,
here with me.
oh my
Uh
God.
Onward and Upward. When did you this was
October
last
2022 is when I published.
22. That's right. Yeah. So let's talk about that. What made you decide you wanted to start writing?
I don't know about writing. I just know I've done it my whole life. When I was about however old you are in second grade. When I was in second grade, though, I had written like a 80-page book about SpongeBob, like while I was in class. My teacher had it laminated. I mean, I hand wrote, I drew illustrations in it, and my teacher had it laminated and put with all of the other authors in our classroom. I was under B for Benson. She made it feel so special, and I felt like an actual author. And I just always was writing. In fifth grade, I started a newspaper with my friends in our class. It was called Crazy Central, I think. And I would draw comics, like write miniature news stories. I started a newspaper at my house called the Benson Press, where I would just gossip about my family and like tell news stories. So I was always into like the journalistic writing field just from a young age. And always kind of had a dream of taking that next step into writing, but didn't know how, if that would be something professional or something on the side. So
Mhm.
majoring in or getting a Bachelor of Journalism in college definitely helped me expand my writing skills further. And I think around the time like Jordan and I met, and as I moved into a bigger city of Omaha from a small town, just expanding my network, the people I met, and the experiences I learned from others, it just kind of pushed me forward and made me realize I really should go after something I want to do now. And I just realized it was writing a book, but I didn't know what I wanted to write about at the time. It just was always kind of like an afterthought. And I finally just
Mhm.
took a leap of faith and really sat down and honed in on what I wanted and went from there.
I've been too scared to write a book. First of all, I lack consistent memories.
I do too. I think no matter what someone's topic is, when you are sitting down writing a book, it really helps. It's like therapy in a way for yourself. I
Mhm.
mean, you really do reflect on so much. And I struggle with memory too sometimes, and I'll write stuff down. And I mean, I had to really dig back into my past when I was writing my book, ask family members to rehash certain things for me. So, and I know a lot of people who want to write books, but they maybe don't have the time, money, don't know what they want to do. I mean, ghostwriters is a thing that people can look into
Yeah.
as well. So there's a lot of different options,
I
but
think another thing that lives in my brain is how anytime I turned in a paper in school, it came back with all this red ink over it and like run on sentence and fragmented sentence and comments like that still live in my brain. So, and now every
Mhm.
time I make a post on Facebook, social media, or anything, I'm like, fragmented sentence. Oh, it's good. I can do that now. Rules don't apply to like structural sentences anymore. And my favorite is the dot, dot, dot. I can't
The
get enough of
ellipses.
The
that.
ellipse.
Dot. Okay, so let's get into your book a little bit because I did get a chance to read it as well. And I will tell you just within the first couple of pages, ooh, it got my heart right away. And one of the topics that you bring up is adoption. And this is a topic that I don't talk about a lot, but has greatly impacted me. I didn't realize how much until actually just a couple years ago. Now, not to compare our stories because they're no way similar, but in the essence of I'm missing a part of my identity. I can't find myself in certain ways compared to other people, which always gets triggered around high school when they do something stupid like, you know, create your family tree. What does your family tree look like? And it's like father, and I'm like, oh, how do I answer that? Because if I put my stepdad's name, that feels like a lie. If I put my birth father's name, I make people angry. And so one of the things I lived with was like hmm, a shame I didn't belong kind of feeling, because I was the only blonde, blue-eyed in my family. And one time my mother heard me tell somebody, "Oh, that's my stepdad. That's why I don't look like him." But she lost it. Like, you did not talk about anything. She never talked about my birth father. I didn't see pictures of him until I was in my 20s. And so, yeah, I grew up with like this identity crisis that I couldn't share with people because I didn't feel like anybody could relate to how I felt. And then part of my healing process in the past couple of years was uh, embracing the fact that I did have this whole other identity. I was born Peggy Taylor. So Taylor isn't just a made up ethereal, the ether name kind of thing. This was my identity. And so in my 20s, when I saw a picture of my birth father, blonde hair, blue eyes, holding a guitar, where I had grief before, it came even a more enormous pit of grief because I realized I'm missing my person, the person that I was supposed to be like, the person that was supposed to teach me guitar. You know what I mean? So in just reading the first couple pages of your book, I right away was like going back into those feelings. I could really kind of empathize with what you were feeling in terms of sort of that, only to an extent, because there again, then we get into your story a little bit. And I'm going to let you tell that because you're going to tell it better than me repeating what I read in the book. But can you tell us about your adoption experience? Do you mind sharing?
Totally. Yeah. And I appreciate hearing that so much and you being open and vulnerable talking about that because with one of the biggest insecurities I had going into writing this book was that no one would relate to my topics of a closed adoption, of experiencing ignorance toward a race, the mental health issues I had. I was like, those are way too specific. Who cares? Like, this is a memoir, whatever. I just super negative. But I've had so many people like you, Peggy, who have come forward and said how much they empathize or relate, even if it's not 100% something they've gone through. And that's what I wanted to do for people. I wrote the book for myself, but I wanted it to be an outlet for other people to be like, oh my God, like I'm not alone in this either. Someone else gets this, or that puts things into perspective. So I just wanted to say that I love that you can empathize there. Um, but yeah, my adoption journey, it was a closed adoption, which essentially means that very little to no information between my birth family and my adoptive family were exchanged. So I have maybe three pieces of information on my birth parents. I don't know their names. I don't know if they're alive. I don't know what they look like. So I and it's always been that way. Growing up, I would go to my adoptive parents, who I just call my parents, and ask them questions always about who my birth family was, and they never had answers for me. Like they know the same amount of info as I do, and that was always hard for both of us because they wanted to help me but couldn't in that way. And so it's always been a struggle. It's gotten easier to talk about and be open about as I've gotten older, but it's still something that's a difficult topic for sure. But I wouldn't have it any other way with my adoption. It gave me the family that I have today, the circumstances I was in. It all worked out how it was supposed to, with a lot of happy and sad emotions in there. But I wouldn't have it any other way. My family adopted me when I was 4 months old. They drove out to airport in Des Moines, I think. And yeah, I had what's called an escort. She escorted me on from Seoul, Korea to America and took care of me on the plane. And then the rest is history.
Yeah, I saw those pictures and I see a happy little beautiful baby girl and your mom just like, oh, just so loving, just adoring you. And it looks like she's crying a little bit. Just a wealth of emotions there for sure. One thing I've learned in my healing process is two things can be true. One, you love and adore your adopted family, and they are your family. They're your primary family. That is your mom, that is your dad. But also, the other part of that is your truth is I don't know my birth mom. I don't know my birth dad. I don't know my identity. And so, like, two things can exist at once. And I just applaud your family, your adoptive family, for holding that space for you and letting you ask questions and letting you say, I miss this, I grieve this, I yearn for this, and then not, I'm assuming, not feel threatened by that.
Totally. They've been nothing but supportive and they understand my struggles. And it truly is an identity thing. I mean, I don't look at my parents as my white parents. They don't look at me as their Asian daughter. But every once in a while, especially like when I was writing the book, those thoughts of who am I? Like, what would my birth mom say about this? What does she look like? Where do I get my features from?
Girl,
Like,
I was grieving that for you. You know, I thought, okay, I did at least know my mom. And being a female, being a daughter, being a girl, especially, mothers and daughters share so much. You learn so much. And so I thought too for myself, for you reading your book, what would her mother have taught her? What wisdom would she have passed on to her? Like, these are the things you're missing. And similar to how I grieve not having that father there, you know, what would he have taught me? What would have been his favorite song been to teach me on guitar or something, you know? Um, and holding on to those precious bits of information. Oh girl, I felt that in my soul too.
yeah.
I have some pictures now. Somebody did send me some pictures and it's funny how those details are just like they're everything, right?
They
But,
are.
um, I think, you know, a couple of other takeaways here that I recall from your book. Number 1 was, how people treat you when you don't look like your family. Like, okay, you're Asian. I was just the blonde, but even still, people are like, "Why don't you look like the rest of your family? This is your family?" You know? A little bit, again, to a small degree, could I kind of relate to what that felt like. But for you, even with other interracial adoptions for families that adopt African American kids and whatever, I've heard and listened to the struggle of, you know, I've lost the whole culture. And you talk about in your book too, like I wasn't raised to this. I wasn't raised to believe that. And then in that culture, these are the norms. And people expect norms for you, but your norm was Nebraska.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah, and one thing I do love, I used to be ashamed of it, and I don't know why. When my family adopted me, they made Kyung my middle name, which is part of my Korean name, which is Mi Kyung Kim, because they wanted me to have part of my Asian identity with me.
Mm.
And I don't know why, but I guess in my book, I talk about just the insecurities and the self-hatred I had about my identity, and a lot of it involved my race. So I always wanted to hide as much Asian about me as I could. I didn't like saying my middle name. I was like just so ashamed of it. And finally, after I started telling people, all I got was compliments from people. And I was like, I really should own this. Like it's unique. And just roll with it. And I knew for sure when I published this book, I wanted that to be in my author name, keeping my middle name. But yeah, they've done everything they can to help me keep as much of that identity, find more of it, finding resources because they just raised me how they would raise
Mhm.
anyone. I and for other people, and then I think that's where it gets into my next section of racial ignorance of being raised white and then not fitting in with white people because I'm not, but having white mannerisms,
Mhm.
being 100% Asian, but not fitting in with Asian culture. And it's always been this, it's still something I struggle with a lot. So,
Right. Yeah, and I don't know if that's I ca I can't ever imagine that's something that we'll lose. I think that's just something that we learn to embrace about ourselves, that there's gonna be certain wounds that we carry as adoptees, and that's okay. And I think being open and vulnerable about it, having people around you that, like I said, hold a safe space and allow you to grieve that is huge. It's huge. And, so I don't know if I wanna open up the can of worms about racial ignorance.
oh, you totally
That's
could.
what I don't wanna go down that road of unconscious bias and all of this. We know it exists greatly, but what I more want to emphasize is about so you went to the Capitol, and
Mhm.
can you tell us about that experience?
Yes, my wonderful friend Shannon is a huge advocate for adoption, and she has a son that she adopted. And I think another thing I do want to add that I love that my book has opened is I had so many people come forward and not only say how much they empathize with certain things, but I learned a lot of people around me are adopted, which was awesome. Like people I didn't realize, because I think sometimes people can think like they'll just think of like interracial adoptions, but there's so many other reasons people adopt. One of
Mhm.
my friends, her whole family's white and she's white. And she does actually kind of look like her mom, and people never usually suspect that she is adopted. So it was just really cool to learn all of the people around me who actually are adopted.
You even in
But
your book, somebody was like, "Oh, are you adopted?" And you didn't expect it, but she goes, "Yeah, I am too." It was a clo and then she's like, "It's a closed adoption," which then made it even more relatable to you.
yes, because
Um
closed adoptions are very, very rare. But in
Mm.
like Asian culture, I think it is a lot more common, or in
Right.
international. Yeah.
Because of the
Um,
shame and stigma associated with
yeah,
most of the reasons why.
they just have a different way they go about things and how they view culture. It's very frowned upon if you're pregnant and
Mm,
unwed, which was my birth mom situation. And I honestly don't even know if she was given a choice with my adoption or not, or if it was something that was more forced. I really don't know. I just
right.
know that their culture there is very different on how they look at that stuff and how they look at the people.
Mhm.
But Shannon is my great friend. She's a wonderful advocate for adoption and I think I've always been an advocate. I've just never really known what for. I've never labeled myself that. And she saw that they were testifying at the Capitol and it was for adoption and just for adoptees and what kind of resources could adoptees, foster moms, um, and just people in the adoption community use to better themselves. And she was like, would you be interested in speaking on this and testifying on behalf of adoptees? And I was really hesitant about it at first because I mean, I'm not, I don't like that it has to be a political thing, but it is. But I'm not a political
Mhm.
person, but I do believe in standing up for what you believe in. And I was like, yeah, I will totally do that. And it was very last minute. So me, another adoptee, and her went down to Lincoln and we gave a little 3-minute spiel. And I just talked about struggles of being an adoptee, even though I wasn't adopted uh, in the States, and just things I wish I would have had growing up. And then I also did some research on foster parents, some of their struggles, and what I feel would help them because I think foster parents are really overlooked, I guess, like some of the help
Mhm.
they need. So, oh, I think the other adoptee who testified, he actually focused on like him and as an adoptee. And I found that out like the day before. So I actually changed the whole view of my speech from that to I focused on foster parents. That's what it was. Sorry.
Mm. So I'm curious, what kind of things, what kind of resources do you think could have been in place for your parents to help them better um, raise a child up from a different culture, a different part of the world? Like you came in from Korea, and again, looking at interracial families, the African American kids talk about how like there's just anything like hair, how to fix hair, things like that. What kind of resources do you think would have better prepared your parents for raising you?
Definitely more resources because it was an international adoption. I think that could look a lot of ways, whether it's like access to certain Facebook groups for adoptive parents, maybe something that specifically focuses on international, and even connecting me with Asian communities at a younger age. I think that
Right.
would have helped me feel more fit in. I think if maybe the agency that we worked with could have, I don't know, it's tough to say. I don't want to speak for them because
Mhm.
they did
Mhm.
a wonderful job raising me, but I know that
Right.
they had their
Right.
Yeah, they
struggles
did.
and stuff.
Right. But just in terms of like, noticing that you were standing out. Well, you said there was like maybe 5 Asians and
Mhm.
David City or David City.
David City.
And so just trying to find people that you could look at. I mean, it matters, right? It matters that we look like the people around us. It matters that we fit in, even though we want to say it doesn't. Like primitively speaking, survival wise, if you look different, you were an outcast. You were gotten rid of because you were
Yeah.
some sort of a threat or what have you. So instinctively, we look for blending in, fitting in, looking like everybody else because I think it gives us a feeling of safety. But then as you get older, you realize the more you don't fit in, then the more people are actually looking to you for like, how do I
Mhm.
how do I get out of this box? But it's sort of a weird paradox to be in that um again, you struggle so hard to find out where you belong in the world. And I again a little bit, but not completely. Can I even try to remotely compare my story? But briefly, like I lived in Japan for 3 years. I was in Okinawa and we lived in the community. We weren't on base. And I remember not looking like everybody else. I towered over everybody. I was super blonde. I was young and I was not familiar with the culture. I couldn't speak the language. I wanted to make friends with some of the kids, but like there was no communication happening. So, I mean, even to the extent of feeling lost, you know, in in that area of the world, I was looking for somebody that I could connect with.
Mhm.
And the funny thing is, I learned to play piano from one of the girls, one of the Okinawa girls in that community. She taught me chopsticks. Like we used to sit on this stone wall and we would find a way to communicate. And music was the thing that brought us together. She saw me with a keyboard one day. We did a lot of pointing,
Mhm.
miming. Um, but like I ended up making a great friendship with her. And never being able to really even communicate. But identity, identity, identity. Everywhere I've gone, I've struggled finding my own place in the world. And even still, I I live in my head in a place of like I don't fit in, I don't belong here. I'm not connected. And that's a scary feeling. Creates a lot of
Yeah.
anxieties.
It really is. I think everyone in their own way, whether it is with an external thing like adoption, if it's their race, something with mental health, the way they're brought up, whatever it is, I think people can really relate that they have some type of identity struggle or an identity crisis at some point in their life, or maybe they're going through that, which is, yeah. So I love learning all people's different experiences and just how it relates because I love that because I know how big music is for you. And I love learning that like, you were able to connect with someone over that, even though you have like a total language barrier, but like you can connect over that. I think with my book, there's people who are like, I'm not adopted, I'm not Asian, I don't have mental health struggles, but I totally connected to you on this or that. And I just love to be able to be that for someone, be that resource. And I love learning about experiences like yours.
Well, I appreciate your book. I think it will speak to a lot of people. You're just very vulnerable and transparent, and you share a lot of thoughts that are deeply personal. So I highly recommend if you are an adoptee or someone, kind of struggling with feelings like that too, that you give Onward and Upward a read. It's a pretty quick read. You're such a great writer. Like I
Thank you.
was like, Jordan, like she's really
I
captivating, right?
so the first time I read your book, I sat down. I was like, I'll just start it and see where it goes. And I read it in one sitting because I was just so blown away
Captivated.
by your
Yeah.
authenticity and your willingness to be vulnerable with everybody. Like you don't know who's reading your book, but in that, like you were saying, like you have found a way to connect with so many people on so many different things, and like sharing stories like this are so important. So thank you for being vulnerable
So
with
let's
like it.
talk
This is
about
amazing.
another part of the book where it connects your stories. So you
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
Nicole connect too. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So we have the same sleep disorder. It's pretty rare.
Woo!
Yeah, just right out the gate. We have the same sleep disorder. It's called idiopathic hypersomnia.
Say that
Um,
3 times.
right? For short, it's called IH. But it's something that I know that I lived with for a long time without a diagnosis. And you talk about it in your book. You have a whole section dedicated to it. And I mean, like I was saying earlier, we connected through my mom, and one day I was scrolling on Facebook and saw Nicole's name pop up in an IH support group, and I immediately texted her. I was like, "Hey, like, sorry, weird question, but do you have idiopathic hypersomnia?" And she was like, "Oh my god, yes." And so that really just kind of solidified our friendship for us, I think,
Yeah,
because
I was like, oh, besties. We're besties now.
yeah, having somebody to connect with on that, because it's such a rare sleep disorder. It's often overlooked, misdiagnosed, and it's definitely not talked about enough. But it was just so bizarre to just run into somebody with the same one. Like that
Hmm.
really I don't feel like that happens very often. So I felt very lucky to be able to connect with you on that. But I
And
mean
shout
you
out to you too, Jordan, because she was one of my beta readers, which basically means she read a section of my book before it was published, and I had her specifically read, I think that one and mental health, right? I know I for
Mhm.
sure had you do, yeah. So she read my mental health and sleep disorder sections, and I asked her for feedback, and she helped me, and she was wonderful. So thank you for that.
Such an honor it was. But no, I was just so excited that somebody was finally speaking up for us. I was so excited to read that section for you and help you with it just because again, like it's so important to educate people about this. And I mean, you put so much research into this book as well. That's something that if you guys pick up a copy, you'll notice you it's a very well researched book. God, you just talk about so many different things. I was trying to find specific examples, but the whole section really just gets me so excited. Um, but yeah, so when were you diagnosed again, if you're willing to share?
I should know.
It's like
I've
2020,
just been tired my whole life. Probably around there. Yeah.
2021, something like that.
2020 was spring of 2020 was when I got diagnosed.
It was toward the end of college, I remember, because I was
Mhm.
still in college, and it was when I was driving back to see my parents one time that I fell asleep, and that's when I actually fell asleep behind the wheel, and that's when they officially were like, "Okay, something is seriously wrong," because they always knew something was
Mhm.
up, but we thought it was just we were always
Yeah, because
excusing it.
apparently people with IH can sleep like the dead.
Yeah, so
Yes.
well, let's talk about that. What is IH? I was jumping the gun a little bit. So, idiopathic hypersomnia is a sleep disorder, and essentially, it's like the part of our brain that controls our sleep is like turned on all the time or something like that. That's the very untechnical way of explaining it, but we're just
Yeah.
constantly tired
And
and
idiopathic means they don't know what causes it.
correct,
Correct.
yeah. Um,
I describe it to
and
people as, it's like if you had your phone plugged in for 8 hours, it would never reach it no matter how long it's plugged in, it'll never hit 100%, it's always at 50% or less, and that's how we
Mhm.
function every day because no amount of sleep
exactly.
will actually refill us, so we are never at
Mhm.
100% and we never can be.
Right.
Yeah. And that was really hard growing up without a diagnosis. I remember in high school falling asleep in class all the time, and I was always so embarrassed and so afraid that my teachers were gonna think that I was being disrespectful or that I was, just being a lazy student or something. Because I really prided myself on being, uh, an A student and the best that I could be, and I was an academic. But I really struggled with that, and I've also had an experience of nodding off behind the wheel, and it's very, very scary. And I don't remember what I can't pinpoint any exact moment that led me to seeking a diagnosis, but I'm so glad that I did because, um, when you're diagnosed with IH, you undergo these sleep studies, and they'll have you come in, the evening prior, and they'll monitor you while you sleep the whole night, and then the next day, if it's necessary, they'll keep you for the whole day and have you take naps every couple of hours and monitor your sleep during the day. And I remember I slept through the night, they kept me for the next day, and I think, like, the second nap of the morning, which was, like, at 10 AM, I fell asleep in 30 seconds.
Wow.
I, like, head on the pillow, out. I was and I felt like I wasn't even sleeping at all. I thought I had stayed awake the entire day, and they were like, "No, dude, you fell asleep, like, for all 5 naps." So that was
And
my
you're all hooked up to, you're in
Yeah.
a foreign
yeah.
environment, so it's
Well,
not just like a
and I remember many a times, especially like in the car or whatever, we're driving somewhere and I'm talking to Jordan. One second she's awake, and the next I look over and her neck is like gooseneck, like hanging straight down. Like she couldn't even like lay down. She didn't like lay down and go to sleep. You know what I mean? She just like passed out like that.
Yep.
Mhm.
And as her mom, I'm like, oh, pick her head up. That's not good.
Right.
Yeah. That neck pain though. Oof. No, yeah,
But
it's
I thought maybe narcolepsy, honest to God. I mean, because I was like, something is way off here. And it was very disconcerting. But even more so, as an outsider here, I'm looking at two beautiful, strong, intelligent young women with a whole life ahead of them, living in this very competitive, ambitious, driven world, and watching you struggle because oh, I'm not enough. I can't keep up with everybody. I'm tired. Like watching Jordan go through that, just even in college,
Mhm.
was very hard on the outside. So tell us what it's like from your perspective to have a sleep disorder and then people who are like, go, 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 be this, be that, do all these things. Like, how do you do it?
I do my best is
Me
what I would
too.
say. I've gotten a
Mhm.
lot, and I think especially having Jordan in my life and writing this book, it feels more real to, like, know someone personally that and you're also close with that person.
Mm.
Publishing it in a book, it feels more real. I've become a lot more I mean, there's some days, I mean, it sucks. I just wanna literally sleep the whole day, and I really have no motivation, but I can't control it, so I just try to stay as positive as I can, and I'm just like, "This is my life." So I do have to adjust things. I tell people I'm not and I cannot be a morning person, but I can if they can work with me, I can work around them. And I tell people, like, when I say I'm tired and I have to let go, I mean it, and I
Mhm.
Mhm.
really can't. So I've just become a lot more I try to stay realistic and very forgiving with myself, and then I do seek community and people like Jordan and times that I'm struggling or I have questions, and we go back and forth and talk about this kind of stuff all the time. So I think having a community of people who get it, and then just being a lot more forgiving with myself
So one
and
of my favorite things about your friendship is when I hear the support my daughter even gets. She'll say, "Oh, I was like, aren't you going out with Nicole tonight?" And she'll say, "Oh, she texted me and she said she's really tired and she can't." And I'm like, "Oh, what a great friendship that like there's no guilt there. You can just be honest and say I can't function right now." And you're like, "Yeah, I
Mhm.
got you. Let's reschedule for a different day." As to where in other friendships, people are not quite as understanding that you have to take care of you first. I mean, gosh, it's not just being tired,
yeah.
guys. Like,
Yeah.
understand that when my child goes to sleep, it was for like 3 days at a time, like, literally just
Mhm.
begging her to wake up to just maybe eat a little bit, maybe take her meds, like, if I could just get her up that long, and so I worry about, like, how do you live on your own when you have a sleep disorder? How do you function when you're just exhausted all the time?
You do
Yeah,
your best.
you do your best. Yeah, I have a lot of alarms set in the morning, and
Mhm.
I think a lot of people, my neighbors, hate me for that because I mean, there's sometimes it will go off for maybe an hour. I trying to get into a good sleep schedule. Sometimes if I know I have something very important that I have to wake up for that I cannot be late to, I will ask like my mom or someone else, like, can you call me and make sure I'm up? And like she will.
That does not
Uh,
work. Jordan does not answer her phone.
my
Well,
mom, there was one time I had to catch a flight and it was she FaceTimed me multiple times and then I picked up and she's like, "Are you up?" And I was like, "Mhm." She's
Mhm.
like, "Get out of bed and turn on the light and take your phone and show me you were out of bed," because she knew
Yeah.
if I didn't physically get out of bed, I wouldn't. So I've used other people as resources,
mhm.
setting alarms, and it just you have to have as much discipline as you
I think
can
it would
for sure.
almost behoove you to have people with this disability, if you call it that, a service animal that would be trained to like wake you up, like if your arm,
My
and
cat.
like
So
thankfully having a dog can help with that, Jordan.
my dog Sam, love him to death. He is my service animal, and I was hoping for that initially that he was gonna get me up in the morning, and most of the time he does. Um,
She broke
but
your dog.
it
She broke
he's
your dog.
kind of failed at it because he learned to sleep in with
He
me
sleeps
is
till
the
like
problem.
noon.
And he doesn't bat an eye. He's just like, "All right, we're sleeping in today," and he will gladly do it. So he's very emotionally supportive, but not not so much a great service animal.
My cat
Um,
is the same way.
Oh, I
they
understand.
learn.
Learn.
Mhm.
But I had a question for you, Nicole. I know we've talked about this a little bit, but uh, Mom, you bringing up how I ignore your phone calls and things like that. Do you, Nicole, ever deal with something called sleep drunkenness with
Yes.
this disorder? Yeah.
Yeah, don't
So
talk to me right when I wake up.
sleep drunkenness, for people who don't know, it kind of sounds exactly like it is. It's you just when you wake up, you are so groggy and you're so out of it that in my case, I do things that I have no memory of doing. I will have whole conversations with people that I can't remember because my brain has not yet woken up. Uh, or I will turn off all of my alarms. And I mean, there have been times where I've rearranged all the apps on my home screen and I unlock it and I'm like, what happened? Like, and so it's a very, this disorder really interrupts a lot of different aspects of your life. And Nicole, what you were saying is you do your best. Like, that's really all you can do. Um, and having your support has been so important to my healing journey as well. Just having I mean, all of my friends have been so understanding about this disorder and have opened their doors if I need to come over just for a quick nap in between errands or something? So
But there's
having that support system
validation
is so important.
and having somebody who truly understands. Like, I'll never understand. I don't have your sleep disorder. I can say, "Oh, I'm tired. Oh, I mean, I get fatigue. I have my own issues with that, but even still, it's not IH." And so to have a friendship with somebody who can truly say, I get you. I think it's so important. Like, I think that was a huge boost for you, Jordan, for your mental health to just finally have somebody validate how exhausted you really are and to say, you know what,
Mhm.
I see you, I recognize this in you, and I will still be here for you. I will still be your friend. I will still show up. I will still, like, that's huge. And I'm so glad you guys found each other.
Me too.
Absolutely.
I really
It
am.
makes it makes me emotional to think about, so honestly, because I remember, like, the first time I forget which one of us texted, but it was just like, "I'm too tired to hang out, can we reschedule?" And the
I was
relief that came
I
with
was
that,
so happy. I was like,
I
"I'm
was
so
like,
tired
"Thank
too."
God, I'm exhausted,
Like,
let's
you're both
cancel."
like, I feel that in my core.
Yeah, like, it was such an immense amount of relief because there is, that need to appease people and be like, "I'm so sorry, I know I don't have control over this," but it's really I don't have control over this. If I'm tired,
Mhm.
we're not hanging out.
Yeah.
That's just, you know? So to have
Mhm.
Yeah.
somebody so willingly be like, "Oh my god, yeah, let's cancel." It's just
Mhm.
And the
it's
other thing I've
amazing.
seen is trying to function in the norm world when you're not a norm person. And I've literally, I hope you don't mind me sharing this. I'm gonna share it anyways, Jordan. seeing my daughter drive herself beyond her limits because she's trying to work a full-time job. She's trying to work normal hours. She's trying to function like everybody else. She doesn't want to share with employers that she has these things going on in her life. And then just watching her completely collapse because she's so exhausted. And one of the things I used to always say to her is, Jordan, learn to listen to your body or your body's just going to take over. Like if your body is tired, you have to listen to that. And you've done much better over the years. And I know a lot of that is just attributed to the fact that you have a friend living a similar life. And we see that it doesn't stop you. I mean, how incredible is this? You're a model, you're an author, you're all over town, you're networking, you're doing all of this badass stuff, you're in the Capitol. So, what an inspiration to have each other to say, yeah, we got this, but damn, it's not going to stop us. We're still gonna, we still got lives to live. We're still in our 20s. Jordan's like, I'm going out with Nicole. I'm like, oh, we're going to go have fun.
We're gonna go take a nap. Like,
no. When you guys are like, we're going out to an event. Oh, didn't she take you to some like cool club? All right, so Nicole, you know all the ins and
kinds.
outs of all the cool places over town. That I would never go to because I hate dressing up. But I love when you guys dress up and you go out, and then Jordan's telling me all these cool places like you guys have gone to go hang out
all the
in.
speakeasies and things. Yeah. You just know the ins and outs. You're so cool, Nicole. I don't say that
so
lightly.
cool.
For our listeners, you're one of the coolest people I know. Like you are
For sure.
iconic, honestly. I look up to you in every way.
So and talking about that, you did a model, you're modeling, you did like a runway, like the confidence it takes to do runway stuff. Oh my God. But you were fire. Holy cow.
Not only did she do runway stuff, the artist that she has been modeling for has such an incredible cause too. Can you talk a little bit about that, Nicole?
My girl Yolanda. Yes, the brand that I've been able to model for, it's called Still a Lady, and she created a lingerie brand specifically for ostomates, which is people who have to get their I hope I don't butcher the definition, but it's people who have to get their colon removed, usually
like colostomy bags. They have the outside
and
bags.
it's usually a life or death situation. So it's surgically they have an colostomy bag placed here, and that is how they dispose of waste. And for them, it's this huge life altering thing. It can really kill confidence. They don't know what their intimate life is going to be like. And she is an ostomate as well. And when she was looking for lingerie, she couldn't find anything specifically made for people like her. So she was like, screw it, I'm going to do this myself. And so she's made this brand, and it is so beautiful, empowering, sexy, confident, and just wonderful. And she's been able to showcase that at Omaha Fashion Week 3 times now. And I've been able to walk for her.
Oh, you look like a supermodel out there. Oh my
You
God.
are a supermodel. My God.
I was just stunned. I was like,
she really, thank you. She really emphasizes so she's the designer and her aunt is the seamstress. And all of us, like, we put on our outfits and they're all unique. They look beautiful on all of our skin colors, body sizes, and everything just looks perfect on each person. And we all feel great. And she was like, if we can do that for people, even if they do not have an ostomy bag, she's like, we are doing our job, like, as designers and for this brand, because the goal is to make you feel super confident. And then when you get to represent a brand that's awesome, it's made me even become a wonderful, honestly, an advocate for them too. I love it even. Yeah.
And that is something that is becoming a bit more mainstream. What is her name? The actress with MS who is not Selena. What is her
Selma
name?
Blair.
Selma Blair. Also talking about adaptive clothing. And also I've seen like a makeup line for adaptive makeup application too. And so having something as simple as lingerie, not simple. Lingerie is not simple for anybody. But I mean, wow, what a world that is being opened up to embrace. I can still feel beautiful even if I've got this colostomy bag that I'm wearing. In fact, the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation is one that we're going to be interviewing next. And that is
Mhm.
exactly what we're talking about, a population who has this. And do they even know that there's a clothing line out there, a lingerie line that exists? Like, how great to be able to share that and let people know that, like, intimacy, your intimate life doesn't have to suffer in the negative feelings that go with the shame, the embarrassment, um, of having such a life-saving device. Like, you have
Mhm.
to have it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Um
It's yeah. Ultimately, it is life-saving, and, as somebody with Crohn's disease, I am very blessed and very grateful that my, Crohn's disease is still in remission, and so but that is something that I've worried about ever since my diagnosis is if my disease gets worse, is this a surgery that I would have to undergo? How would it impact my life? Like, those are very real things to worry about, and so to see one of my best friends up there confidently modeling with this bag and things like that, it makes me feel more empowered, and I know that it makes more people like me feel empowered, and that's just yeah, we need more of that.
Mhm,
Yeah, and Jordan, I actually thought about you at one point as I've been learning more and more about this brand, learning about all the different ways that people have had to get an ostomy bag. And I know one of them is Crohn's. And I'm like, oh my God, one of my best friends has Crohn's. And like, I just instantly was like, what if she actually has one? And like, it's just something she doesn't talk about, or what if she would have to
Mhm.
get one? But I mean, I immediately thought of you, and I learned of somebody else who just had to get an ostomy bag. I'm not sure if it was from Crohn's or not.
mhm,
And it was a life or death thing. And I mean, just the educational part of it, being able to represent that brand. One of the models actually is a real ostomy as well that walks. So
mhm,
that was awesome for her to be able to do that. And just, I had no idea any of this existed before that. So,
Mhm.
and I get to educate people on it now too, which is awesome. And I'm
And
trying
look
to
great while
really,
doing it.
trying to look great. Those boots were killer,
Those
but
boots
Girl,
were
those
amazing.
foods, y'all. Oh my
I might wear
gosh.
those tonight when I go out.
Like, when I look at you guys, I'm like, "Enjoy your 20s. They go by so fast."
I know,
You know?
but no, it's been wonderful. And I think I used to be, like, really nervous about if I even wanted to show what I looked like with some of these photos, 'cause it's lingerie, um,
Mhm.
but the cause behind it, the way it makes me feel, what I'm doing for that brand, like, that is just so much more forward or whatever you'd wanna say for that, and it's just really helped me, embrace myself as well, saying I know I'm standing up for a great cause and
That's
looking great while
amazing.
doing it.
Well, we're about
Absolutely.
down to, 8 minutes here, 7 minutes, and it has just been really great having you come on our new show, because we wanna spotlight the people in our lives that inspire us. And Jordan said that when you found out I wanted you on the show, you were like, "What?" And I was like, "Why would she think otherwise?" Like, I just think you're so amazing. I'm so proud of the woman that you are and the advocate that you are and how well spoken you are and how you just so confidently stand up there for whatever you believe in, and speak so passionately, not just for yourself, but on behalf of other people like you just did. And more importantly, just to see my kid have such a beautiful friendship with somebody so compassionate, and the love and happiness that it brings into her life, like that's beaming mom here, like, yay. My kid has a friend. I was worried
We
there for a
just
little bit.
we just brought you on to tell you how great you are. It's
I'm
really
feeling it. It feels
I
great.
mean, you really are though. Is it time for the soundbite?
Well, we can do the sound bite. So, Nicole Buntgen, what is your why for being so passionate, for writing a book, for modeling? What is your why, to so fiercely put yourself out there the way that you do, um, in life? What is your why?
I think life is way too short to settle, to not do things that you want for yourself, and to not love yourself. There's always going to be people who will look at you in different ways, tell you this or that, but ultimately it can just be gone in the blink of an eye. And I've seen it happen to too many people. experienced my own feelings with mental health, and it's just really taught me that I want to live life for myself. And if I can impact people along the way to feel better about themselves, to take a next step toward a goal that they have, or to enlighten them on something, then I feel like I've done justice, and I want to leave that type of legacy behind.
You're doing a great job.
Mhm.
Also, one more question I have is if there's somebody out there dealing with the emotions and feelings of being an adopted kid, what advice do you have for them if they're struggling and they don't even know how to approach a conversation about it? What would you recommend?
I would say find community, whether that is on a social media platform or even support groups that are in your town, because I know it can be anything like that can be really difficult to speak about, and that's not something that's easy for everybody. But even myself, I can find if I'm scrolling on social media and I can find something like that, finding someone on there I can relate to it, it makes me feel better and educates me. Just getting out and more involved in my community and meeting people and seeing events that are going on and things like that. So I think it's just trying to get yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone and put yourself out there, whether that is finding somebody online or in the place that you reside, because there's a lot more people that can relate to what you're going through than you may realize, no matter what it is.
Mhm.
And I think it's just taking that next step to be a little bit vulnerable and put yourself out there and try to find that.
Yeah. Adoptees unite. That's what I say.
Totally.
Nicole, thank you for coming on What is Your Why and speaking with us today. And I know we've had some technical issues. I guess Facebook was not allowing this to stream live, but we will be posting it. It did stream live to YouTube and LinkedIn, it looks like. So if there were comments out there, I didn't see any come in. But if you have any comments, feel free to contact us and we can get those to Nicole. If you'd like to connect with her about her book, how can they do that? Where can they find your book?
I am on Amazon. So
Mhm.
if you just search Onward and Upward, Nicole Buntgen, you'll find me there. If somebody's in the Omaha area, I'm happy to meet up in person as well and do a signed copy. And then I have a link tree. I think I might have sent it to you in an email, Peggy. But my link tree has like some links to pieces that I've written,
Okay.
and as well as social medias and then email address as well.
All right. Fantastic. And we'll get those posted again. Thank you, Nicole. And I look forward to seeing you around town this summer. So we will be talking to you soon.
It sounds good. Thank you guys so much.
Take,
Appreciate it.
take care, babe.
See ya. I know. She's the best.
I'm just so grateful for the powerful women in our lives, especially the creative and the fierce and bold. And she just really represents so much of that. And just after reading her book again, just making me realize, man, I carried a lot as an adopted kid growing up. You carry a lot as somebody with a very unique disability disorder. So it is great to have community, finding places where you belong. Huge,
Absolutely.
huge for mental health. So speaking of communities, tonight we're going to be going to play at a fish fry, huh?
Yeah.
Down in Plattsmouth. So if you're in Plattsmouth, be looking for the Old Taylors. We'll be playing about 6 to 7 p.m. tonight. And then next week, we have a big Guitars for Vets Country Music Night event at Nebraska Brewing Company from 5 to 9. So March 8th, mark your calendars. We hope that you will be there to join us. Thank you for watching and tuning in to What is Your Why? And for the folks who share it out, we appreciate that very much. We're still growing in all of this, so I do apologize for the technical difficulties today with Facebook, but we will get this posted. We will stay in touch. And I believe March 22nd, we're talking with the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, and we're going to be learning more about that. So thanks for being here today. Jordan, thank you for your time, your input, and for leading the discussion.
Absolutely. See you next time.
Catch you on the flip side.